So with this series of works, I was commissioned to do an installation at the New York Hall of Science. It's a museum in Queens. That's where the 1963 or 64 World Fair happened. It consists of an installation of 40 of these pieces ranging between 2 feet to 6 feet, and it kind of mimics the structure of bay windows, an incomplete bay window. So the title of this piece is Finding the Window, and it also plays in the way of making those pieces. Like, I really have to find the window in the glass to get it to stretch and stay, not break, not fall on the floor. But the idea of this piece was to create an experience for viewers to be able to see differently. So when you look through the pieces, you see reality differently because it creates distortions, but it also makes things look really beautiful. It makes you see things in a way that you haven't before. And also from a technical perspective, which is a lot of where my passion for working with glass lies, is that glass is an everyday material. We see it every day, we use it every day, see it in a window, in a glass, but we rarely consider and realize that it is a molten material. It's basically alive, it's very responsive. And just seeing things in a condition that we are not usually used to encountering allows us to see reality different, or to change our perspective on things that we take as truths or assumptions. I worked with an architect to do a structural analysis, and also with an engineer because, of course, I'm hanging 40 panels of glass above people's heads. So it had to be very structurally sound. All the glass was laminated. It was a really fun process. Installing these pieces meant going onto a scissor lift with a team of 6 people. It was an adventure. I didn't realize I was not a fan of heights. So in working with glass, I was passionate about it because it exemplifies a polarity. I think glass is strong and fragile, like hot and cold. It exemplifies both sides. As I started to learn how to blow it, I started thinking of how to work with it differently by the glass pools. And this one is inflating it with compressed air. So I pour molten glass on a metal table. I realized I had to flip it. Otherwise, the bubble just explodes because it's too hot. So by touching the metal table, it cools down. And then I poke it with a tungsten rod that is used for welding. And then I inflate it with compressed air. So it's just like how you would inflate a bicycle tire, a car tire. Very low pressure though. It's like at a 40 psi. Otherwise, it would just go everywhere. Very dangerous. I hear a lot that these pieces feel very alive, that they look like organs. This looks like a sonogram, Melinda mentioned. This is when I started breaking the rules of the traditional way to work with glass. I decided to mop the floor with molten glass to collect the dust. It's like a self-purification ritual, but also thinking of the contrast between contamination, like what does cleanliness mean? Glass is technically made out of dirt. So what is the difference, between collecting dirt? Glass has this reputation of being super perfect and super pristine. So I was working with that contrast. I collected this mop. Then I started collecting dust from different places that would document experiences that had happened in certain locations. I started making dining sets. So from the mopped glass, I then used that dirt glass to encase it between 2 layers of clear to create a dining set. It is super safe to eat out of this and drink out of it because you're not in contact with the dirty glass at all. So then again, thinking of that duality, polarity, coming to terms with things, I started making this series of flammable statements. It's just writing a statement with molten glass on wood and it catches on fire. It's just thinking of certain things that we say or think that feel like it almost make us ignite. But in the case of this statement, we are not equal. It can be taken in both ways. We are not equal as in the negative connotation that there is, inequality. It could also be interpreted as in the fact that we are not equal means that we are unique or we are special. It's a series of statements that are ambiguous in nature and can create reactions within us. The idea of the thing igniting. I go through different phases when making work, so I don't always have access to a glass studio. And that's when I started doing other kinds of work. This was a performance that was also commissioned by the Hive art community. It's like a funny performance. I ate 3 slices of pizza, basically went on an emotional existential crisis, jumped on a bed of flour, and then a projection of myself, aka like alter ego or spirit body, comes out of my body and goes through this healing dancing experience. Just like thinking again of energy and what we consume, what things around us, what effect they have on us. A lot of the performance work I do deals with things I write and kind of like existential concerns about how the world operates and who we are, what is our purpose. I've been working a lot on my personal healing, and I think considering the pandemic and all the other things, I think we have all had to face a lot of our own shadows. So I would like to think that my work really facilitates healing and the expansion of consciousness, and by that I define it as seeing things in a different way. I think the audience is more someone who is interested in their own self-discovery journey or healing. I think my work is directed towards people who want to be on that journey, are on that journey, and just want to keep expanding. Or also people that are not aware of that at all and then see something and suddenly are like, wow, I didn't know this was possible, or I didn't know this existed. And suddenly those possibilities start to open up for them. I think right now what influences me the most is the idea of vibration and frequency, and that's why I choose to work with glass, because glass really holds a vibration, like it's molecules that are vibrating when they're hot as they switch to being cold. When I'm trying to make work, I listen a lot to solfeggio frequencies, and they are basically sounds that are frequencies, because we're mainly water. So if we vibrate ourselves in a certain frequency, we can help overcome disease or overcome certain emotional states. So I think with spirituality, I'm mainly interested in learning about that. I think patience is the biggest thing, being patient with yourself, not doing things because of the outcome. There is this whole idea of the starving artist, that being an artist is like suffering, and we gotta suffer for our work, and it's like such a struggle to create, and artists are not well paid and etc. But I really want to kind of destroy that theory. Not to say that I have been able to fully destroy it within my own practice, because it is not easy to be financially sustainable from being an artist, and I am in that journey. I'm not there yet. I do think that it is important to think about being profitable and thinking about getting your work out there, because ultimately if one wants to sustain themselves as an artist, which is what I want to do, our income has to come from the work we make. So I think that is a common misconception, that people think oh, you can be an artist and have a side job. No, I want my art is my job. So make sure that when you are in the journey of becoming an artist, you factor that in, because your sustainability has to be your work.
This program is made possible in part through the support of New York State Council on the Arts, Orange County Government, Shapiro's Furniture, and from donations from people like you. Please consider making a donation today at www.ocartscouncil.org. Thank you.